In the infinite expanse of the multiverse, there are countless versions of you, each one shaped by different choices, circumstances, and timelines. Some of these alternate selves may be quite similar to the person you are now, while others may be vastly different. Among them, there exists a version of you that embodies the Sigma personality archetype, an individual who walks alone, defying social norms, rejecting authority, and forging a path entirely on their own terms. This Sigma version of you is the ultimate lone wolf, defined by self-reliance and emotional detachment. But how do you compare to this other version of yourself? How can you tell if your life is markedly different from that of your Sigma counterpart in a parallel universe? The following signs reveal the key differences between who you are now and who you could be if you embraced the Sigma way of life. First, balancing independence versus embracing solitude. You value your independence, but you also understand the importance of relying on others when necessary. Whether it's seeking advice from a trusted friend, leaning on family for support, or working as part of a team, you don't mind sharing the load. Collaboration doesn't make you feel less independent. Rather, it strengthens your ability to succeed. On the other hand, the Sigma version of yourself views independence through a completely different lens. They embrace solitude as a necessity, not just a preference. For your Sigma self, self-reliance is everything. They thrive on the idea that they are entirely responsible for their own success and happiness, and they avoid dependence on anyone else. This deep-seated need for complete autonomy is what separates their lone wolf nature from your more balanced approach to independence. 2. Cherishing connections versus selective detachment. You may find joy and fulfillment in nurturing close relationships with friends and family. Emotional connections are a source of strength for you, and you appreciate the sense of belonging that comes from having a support system. You seek out meaningful interactions, and these relationships enrich your life in numerous ways. In contrast, your Sigma self views relationships quite differently. They are highly selective about who they allow into their inner circle, if anyone at all. Emotional entanglements are seen as potential liabilities that could hinder their freedom or cloud their judgment. Where you find value in connection, the Sigma version of you finds value in distance. They prefer to keep their emotional energy focused inward, guarding their independence fiercely, and only engaging with others on their own terms, and often for short periods of time. 3. Playing by the rules versus rejecting authority. In your universe, you likely recognize the need to play by certain rules to get ahead. You might not always agree with authority, but you understand the importance of working within societal structures, whether it's in your career, your community, or in personal relationships. You adapt to the rules that govern your environment, seeing them as part of the path to success. The Sigma version of you, however, sees authority as an obstacle to be challenged, not a guideline to be followed. They inherently distrust hierarchical structures and societal norms, preferring to forge their own way without regard for the conventional rules that most people adhere to. For your Sigma self, success comes from defying the status quo, not from working within it. 4. Driven by recognition versus self-motivated ambition. You may feel motivated by external factors, such as recognition from peers, promotions at work, or validation from those you admire. Your ambition is likely shaped by societal markers of success, whether it's achieving financial stability, earning accolades, or making a name for yourself in your chosen field. These external rewards fuel your drive and help you set your goals. Your Sigma self, however, is driven by a completely different kind of ambition. Their motivation is purely internal. They don't care about recognition, status, or approval from others. Instead, their goals are deeply personal, shaped by their own sense of accomplishment and self-improvement. While you may seek acknowledgement from the outside world, your Sigma self seeks only to satisfy their own high standards, often indifferent to whether anyone else notices their achievements. 5. Seeking emotional bonds versus prioritizing emotional resilience. You may value emotional bonds, seeking out relationships that offer love, companionship, and empathy. Whether in friendships, family, or romantic relationships, you find comfort in being able to share your emotional world with others. Vulnerability for you is not a weakness. It's a way to connect deeply with the people who matter most. On the other hand, your Sigma self places little emphasis on emotional connections. They see emotional dependence as a potential vulnerability and choose instead to prioritize emotional resilience. For them, strength comes from within, and they believe in handling their emotions privately. Rather than relying on others for emotional support, your Sigma self depends entirely on their own inner strength, preferring to stay emotionally detached and self-sufficient. 6. Finding comfort in norms versus thriving outside the box. You might find comfort in societal norms, whether it's adhering to traditions, following the expected career path, or participating in cultural rituals. These norms provide structure, security, and a sense of belonging. You may see them as helpful guidelines that keep life organized and predictable. However, your Sigma self thrives outside these boundaries. They actively resist conformity and have no interest in following the crowd. To your Sigma counterpart, norms are restrictive, and they prefer to carve out a life that exists on the fringes of society. While you may embrace the comfort of shared traditions or expectations, your Sigma self operates independently, completely unbothered by societal judgments or conventions. 7. Careful adaptation versus boldly embracing change. When it comes to change, you likely approach it thoughtfully, weighing the pros and cons before making any major shifts. You consider how changes will impact both your life and the people around you, and you make adjustments accordingly. Change, for you, is something to be navigated with care. By contrast, your Sigma self embraces change head-on, but only when it serves their personal goals. They are fearless in their decision-making, often switching directions without hesitation when it benefits their growth or independence. Where you might be cautious, your Sigma self is bold and unafraid of the unknown, seeing change as an essential part of evolving on their own terms. 8. Collaborative leadership versus leading by example. You may be someone who thrives in collaborative environments, bringing people together to achieve shared goals. As a leader, you likely value the input and perspectives of others, working towards a consensus that benefits the collective. You lead by listening, guiding, and supporting your team. The Sigma version of yourself, however, leads in a very different way. They are natural leaders, not because they seek out the role, but because others are drawn to their quiet confidence and decisive actions. They lead by example, often without saying a word. Their leadership style is grounded in self-discipline and personal mastery, and they inspire others simply by being who they are without needing validation or recognition for their leadership. 9. Measuring success by society's standards versus redefining success on your own terms. Your definition of success may be influenced by external standards, achieving career milestones, earning promotions, or gaining financial stability. Success, for you, might be measured in terms of how well you've met the expectations of society, whether it's personal achievements or professional accomplishments. The Sigma version of yourself, however, redefines success entirely. They don't measure their worth by society's standards. Instead, their success is deeply personal and often invisible to the outside world. It's about mastering their own mind, overcoming challenges that only they understand, and achieving goals that have nothing to do with societal expectations. For them, success is an internal experience, not something that needs to be recognized or celebrated by others. 10. Racing against time versus owning your timeline. In your life, you may feel the pressures of time, whether it's meeting deadlines, hitting certain milestones by a specific age, or managing your career and personal life on society's clock. You might feel the urgency to keep up with the pace of the world around you. Your Sigma self, however, operates on a completely different timeline. They are not bound by societal expectations of when things should happen. Time, for them, is a resource they control. They don't rush to meet deadlines or chase after milestones dictated by others. Instead, they move at their own pace, focusing on what matters to them and ignoring external pressures to hurry through life. Conclusion: embracing the paradox of self. In the boundless possibilities of the multiverse, the Sigma version of yourself offers a fascinating contrast to the person you are today. This alternate self represents a life lived on the fringes, untethered by societal expectations and driven solely by personal autonomy. While you may find value in relationships, collaboration, and external measures of success, your Sigma self thrives in solitude, self-sufficiency, and the pursuit of goals defined only by their internal standards. Understanding the differences between these two versions of yourself can provide profound insight into the spectrum of who you can be. Whether you resonate more with your current self or feel a pull toward the Sigma mindset, both paths offer valuable lessons in autonomy, resilience, and the power of defining your own life on your own terms.